Welcome to EduClubTV, initiative of Map My Study, which is one of the most popular platforms for college admission, where students can apply to 25 different countries, 2,000 different colleges, and almost 20,000 different programs. It's a very popular platform now where students come to look at different career options and directly apply for college admission. As part of our series, we are talking to a lot of senior delegates from the Indian education sector, from the high school and the university sector. And today, again, we have a very special guest who we will engage today to understand their perspective in their city, which is Bangalore, and understand how they've been managing during this pandemic and what are the next future plans for them. So I'd like to introduce Ms Pallavi Mishra, who's the principal for Oakridge International School in Bangalore. Welcome, Ms. Mishra. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm well. Thank you.
Great. I know Bangalore, Delhi, we've all had our own challenges in the pandemic, and we all hope it stays now, which is far more normal as a little bit of a lifestyle. When I go sometimes out in Delhi, I'm amazed to see the amount of people outside. We've kind of forgotten what we've been through in the last few months. So, let me start by asking you to give us a little bit more details on Oakridge International School and your relationship with them.
Yeah. So Oakridge International School Bangalore is part of North Anglia Education. North Anglia is a group of schools, 73 schools across the world, and there are 5 Oakridge schools in India. And we are a IB continuum school, which means we offer IB curricula from PYP, MYP to DP. And we are a top ranking school and we have got the best results for both MYP and DP. And it's a school which is known for its inclusive, it's a school which makes sure that every stakeholder is included and is represented. And that's what we are about. Yeah.
And how many students are there in your school? So it's a complete IB school. You do not
It's a complete IB school, yes. We are a family of 1,000 students with about 150 faculty. And we're a large school, fairly large.
That's a good size for an IB school in India, I guess.
Yes.
So how? So I'm assuming that a lot of students would preferably be looking at going abroad for studies because there seems to be a natural inclination after IB.
Yes.
What are the popular countries that you see students selecting to, apart from India, of course? But
so Pushpendra, if I just our batch has just graduated, the DP batch. They have chosen UCLA, San Diego, Berkeley. So western part of US is very, very popular. Canada is very popular. Australia is very popular. And also many Indian universities are gaining ground, especially with the pandemic context. So we had people also opting for, Ashoka, Flame, lots of Indian universities. DU, of course, is very competitive and has a cutoff which is very, very high. But we have a whole range. So I would say it's a 60-40 balance where 60% might be going out, but 40% choose to stay within the country and study further.
And what streams do you think the students are more inclined towards?
Science continues to be very popular. The new emerging, it's very, very popular is of course AI. AI students really want to study and pursue, and there are limited colleges that offer the courses and combinations they're looking for. Law is also very popular. Art is also very popular. But I think what really matters, it's not based on popularity. What we do is, Pushpen, from grade 9 onwards, we start helping children to build their profile. And we start identifying along with the parents their strengths. So what is it that will work for them rather than what's out there and popular? Because you know how fads, they change. And one thing is popular now and then you've got too many of those. And so we want something which will endure for life and which is based on real skill development, and which will really bring out the potential of the child. So in that way, we make sure that all children, they first look at a spectrum of things, and then choose from that, keep on narrowing down till they arrive at what they think is really their forte. And so that's how we work around it. So I wouldn't say one thing is, but yeah, at the beginning, even now in these times, you'll first just parents, if it's parents, they're only thinking about either engineering or a doctor. And then slowly you have to open the world to them and say, no, see, this is there. So we have a very intensive career guidance program. So through that, we help parents and children identify various streams.
And that's interesting, because the reason I asked you is, when we speak to a lot of schools, we see a very natural tendency of science and engineering being a pull factor. And in the last couple of our interviews, we realized that some of the schools were making an initiative from themselves in encouraging on the commerce and the art science fields a lot more. I understand from a parent's perspective, there's a lot of push there because they all want them to be successful. There's a huge demand on the science. But personally, I feel arts and humanities offer a great scope in the future as well. So as a school, are you kind of doing something different to encourage parents not to push the kids into one line, not that pressure there?
Yeah. So we have tie-ups with King's College London, Juilliard, which is a school of music, and then in New York, one of the best, and then MIT. So we make sure that children are getting opportunities. So we have something called the Global Campus, which is an online platform where all the 73 schools interact and participate in a whole lot of activities. It's very, very flourishing and very vibrant. So students get a taste of all streams, they participate, they see what is working for them. So we have students who are excelling in Indian vocals and presenting their talent to the whole world. Then we have students who are working with scientists in MIT on some very recent thing that one of our students did was a mission MOXIE, where he created a filter for the dust in Mars. So all kinds of things which really open up the imagination and of the children, and possibilities that are out there are available to our children. And so yes, we very consciously try to help children diversify and not get stuck to the rut. And for that, it's very important that opportunities are available to students very early on, and it should not happen at the end. So we sort of develop this culture right from grade 1 onwards, where they are having, so we have several career days where people from different fields come and speak to them. We have guest lectures where our alumni who has graduated are doing different. So we had a wildlife photographer. She's doing very well with Nat Geo, come and speak to children that this is one career which she loves, and she was an animal lover, and how she used her artistic temperament to develop a career for herself, and a very, very lucrative and flourishing one. So these things may not easily come to parents. These are things which you really have to create an environment for and a culture for from the very beginning. And that will only happen when people are willing to experiment, take some risks, step out of the comfort zone. So all that is part of the IB curriculum. So that's why it's very conducive to this growth mindset.
Interesting. And something you mentioned earlier about parents also, and we know parents play a very key role when it comes to the stream selection and what they want to do. I'm sure that happens a lot in your school as well. How do you create that balance where you're letting the student make that choice of a career that he or she wants to do, and it's not really influenced by the parents or the school? How do you manage that?
It's never easy. It's never easy. But it is something that's the responsibility of the school and educators, I think, to help the parents, understand that the child needs to explore, the child needs to come out of the usual predefined roles that we assign to them. So that's why it really helps to take the we have something called the parent partnership program, where we take parents on board and we tell them right from, so we have lots of step up programs where children from, there will be peer coaching, children who have learned something new or have understood that yes, the usual will not work in the future, how to make that happen. They talk to them, and like I said, the alumni program works for it. And then the parents also slowly and slowly, there's a big mind shift, and it's all about shifting the mindset, because the mindset tends to be a little cloistered and a little very focused on one thing. But once you create that environment, even parents open up and they are willing to understand that yes, my child can do something different from the usual. And for that, a lot of counseling, I think you can never over communicate in this field where you need to help the parents and the children to think differently. Because I've seen children, are sometimes they're very enterprising, where they themselves have found out everything and they know everything. Sometimes they're looking at adult guidance. So in both scenarios, it's important that we make information available to them, allow them to take a decision, and also help them to steer them towards what would be in their best interest. And that happens with a team of people. We have career counselors, we have all teachers who are part of it, and we are using different platforms, psychometric tests, which help students identify their strengths. So
So it's been challenging. So let me ask you a question, which is probably written to you now. How do you define your leadership style in all this?
I feel, my leadership style, if I have to just sum it up in one word, it's a service that I'm doing, because I want to make sure that as an educator, my mother was a principal all her life. And I have seen what a position of responsibility this is, and she was leading a college. And so I see this as my family, as my extended family. I see myself as a foster parent to all my children, and I want the best for them. So it is very important to connect. So my leadership is based on making the connection with every parent, all the children, understanding and making sure that there is a culture of collaboration. Because when there is collaboration, you really have to do very less. You just have to make sure that everybody is able to voice and express and show their strength. Once that happens, once that is established, many times things happen very automatically. You don't even have to really push for things to happen. So that would be my leadership style.
And it all it boils down to having a good team as well, I guess. Somebody team that understands you and understands your vision.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. Team, without the team, it is impossible, because actually, basically, what is our role? It is to make sure that we provide all the support structure for people to be able to do their work. And so they will only do their work if they feel they are part of a larger cause and so making people understand the vision and mission of the school, making sure that everybody is aligned to it. And team building, like I said, it's my extended, I call it my work family. So it's really like that, because unless we have that relationship, the team will not work.
Fair enough. And so, it comes down to a question that we've been asking a lot of schools, the use of technology, and I think how important technology has been in our system now, and especially with this pandemic, we realized that we had to literally depend on it to deliver classes. How was your journey? I'm assuming your school already has the technology, you kind of had it, but this transition of online teaching, learning as a mode, how was it for you?
Yeah. So you're quite right. We already had an EdTech strategy. We had, because our grade 10 writes the on-screen exam. It's called MYP on-screen exams. And we have the iPad teaching happening from 6th onwards. It's available for PYP also, but grade 6 onwards, students get their iPad. And a lot of lessons. So it's a 40-60 ratio where certain lessons happen through simulation. And then we have... our grade 10 already writing the on-screen. So a lot of things were in place. We have smart TVs in all the classrooms. So our teachers were trained in technology, and tech integration is part of our lesson planning. So our transition was smooth, but that is not to say that it was easy, because having all the tech infrastructure in school and making it available to teachers teaching remotely was definitely a challenge. So at first we had to make sure all teachers are given, we upgraded everybody. So we provide laptops to all teachers. So we upgraded the laptops immediately. We also provided them with stylus, pens and pads, so that children get the feel of whiteboard on the screen itself, when the teacher can write and she does not have to try and put a board and put a camera and all those permutations and combinations you see in messages. So it's much more easier for the teacher. And now we have gone a step further. We are launching, it's already been launched, which is called DNA. It's called Digital Nord Anglia, which is very, very futuristic and far ahead of the game. And it is being done under Dr. Rose Luckin, and Simon was part of it, who was from BBC. And this strategy is something which will help minimize teacher work, not replace, but minimize teacher work. So we've already launched, for example, this year we launched Century Tech. Century Tech is, again, through use of AI, the teacher will be able to track which students enjoy taking notes, which students don't you don't want to take notes, which students catch on fast to an idea, don't. So all those data readings, which will simplify the work of the teacher so it will create a balance of intuition and logic, and it will allow to have better results, cater to differentiated teaching, because different ability groups are there, and sometimes when between teacher and students there can be bias, there can be prejudice. You think that this kid is good, you keep on asking. Whereas Century Tech will eliminate that, because it is very self-directed learning. So it's a tool where children can go on self-assessing themselves without any fear of failing, because they are getting the answers as they are, and it's very, very self-driven. And teacher gets the data and she knows what the student is doing. So we've introduced Century Tech. We also introduced Calido, which is another tool which is approaches to teaching and learning. So Century Tech is assessment driven, Calido is skill driven. So a combination of these two things will really help our teaching and learning to go to the next level, and also our students, because our students will get a lot of it'll be a lot of voice into what they are doing, what they are choosing to learn, how they're choosing to learn at their pace. So that's what we've done recently.
So how, it's very, very interesting and certainly very futuristic. So it's a lot of data capture, I guess. So I'm assuming that there's a lot of analytics that goes back for every student, trying to understand their own personal behavior and trying to match up and kind of formulate.
Yeah.
You think your teachers will be able to do that, or they're going to go through a massive training as well? Because there's a lot of understanding to go through this, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I thought, that how will our teachers catch on to it? But they've surprised me once again. We've had 2 orientations for them. And so the tool really simplifies things. For example, they don't have to, so all the work that the students doing there, it naturally goes into a scorecard. The teacher doesn't have to manually do things, and it gets captured in their report card. So formatives are taken care of. So it really, in a way, assists the teacher. So for example, if one child in the class is learning something really fast, they can move on to the next exercise and keep on challenging themselves, rather than the teacher trying to explain to those 5 students who are not getting it and keeping the rest of the class back. So the teachers you are quite right. I was also wondering whether the teachers will be able to catch on to it, but they can see the advantage for them in this, because they can see that, yes, it does enable them to invest their time in other things. So what we are trying to do is make sure that the teacher becomes the center of emotional well-being. And information access is not a problem in the present world and times, but interpreting that information and selecting it is what is the role of the teacher. So that way these tools become really, really, really useful.
But in many ways you're removing the good old traditional style of teaching, where teacher would actually make their own personal judgments on the back benches and the front benches. I
That won't
think you
stop.
kind of you're taking all that drama away from the kids.
Yeah, I think people love drama. They'll find a way to have drama, but no, it won't take away that. So it's a combination, like I said, and it's also based on what the teacher, in which unit the teacher wants to include the tool, in which unit she doesn't want to include. So it's basically the left to the teacher's discretion and decision, and so it works that way. Yeah.
Well, let me touch base on another important thing that is currently happening. We know the new NEP policy. They're trying to. There's an impact of the vocational program coming into the
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
What is your thought about it? Because I think from where you're saying IB already has some system inbuilt, but I think your school's also doing it. Do you think the vocational program is going to have a positive impact or a negative impact? How do
I
you see it?
love the NEP. I absolutely love. I think I jumped for joy when I saw it. We created an NEP committee between our schools to study it in detail. We included CBSC, IGCSC, and our IB teachers. We have been working on it for since the time it was released to analyze it. We also analyzed to what extent we are already applying it, and to my delight and joy, I found that in my school we are already in completely in sync with the NEP. 85%. 15% where we were lacking was that adopting a school and working a community school and working for we've been doing intermittently for different schools rather than focusing on one sustainable project. But that's something that we are now going to do this year. So I think the NEP is long overdue. It definitely needs to replace the old British colonized style of education. And I'm glad it's been launched. And I think you're quite right. IB already has all the elements that the NEP aspires to have in a couple of years. Or 5 years, we already are there. So it's very reassuring for IB educators, which is why I think, very recently in Delhi, the government tied up with IB to launch it in 50 schools. Same thing happened in Maharashtra, because they can see that NEP is sort of modeled on this IB philosophy of teaching and learning.
True. And so do you see the vocational program impact? Have you seen a positive outcome of it already in your school? Because I think one of the reasons of doing this is to skill up the students and not just drive them to one stream. And this is what we were talking earlier.
Absolutely. So we have in IB we have called the CP program, career program, which we don't have it in our school, but that career program is very much like this vocational element in the NEP. So I think that's where the culture of this gap year has come in, where students are actually voluntarily, not after grade 12, they want to take one year gap from studies and college, and they explore what is it that they can do, what kind of career can they develop, which vocation, whether it is arts they want to learn or anything like that. I think there's a lot of scope untapped because the Indian population by far has been a little more cautious. We see very few entrepreneurs and they have gone ahead and they've launched their companies when they've done this. When they take this year's break and they're not under deadlines and not under chasing anything, they come up with simply creative ideas, and they've done quite well for themselves. But it is few and far between. So now that it has government endorsement, I hope it will help, change mindsets and see more reception, more wider acceptance.
So I believe with this, the children will need to have a lot more broader perspective of what they want to do in their life, and I think they'll explore more opportunities rather than just drive into one or two streams. I think that's the impact we're trying to do this, right?
And if we want to bring in this equity in education, then we also need economic support systems, because there will be a very small population who can afford this kind of risk taking for their children, because there will be a lot of people who may find it difficult to manage this. So I suppose the government will come up with some kind of support structure, some budgets to make this available to our children.
We hope that. I think schools might just also do that as part of their initiative, trying to encourage.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I wanted to touch base on one statement I read, which you had mentioned. Role of a principal is to serve the society and help children achieve their goals. Can you talk a little bit more about this? Because this is very interesting for me also personally, because there's an involvement of society and what we can do for children. Can you?
Yes, I think, Pushpendra, that if parents and schools work in partnership, we can ensure a very bright future for the children. It's only when we see ourselves as independent or in opposite, as opposite forces, that we are unable to create that support for the child. So I really feel it is definitely a service, because education, I still believe, coming from a family of educators, I strongly believe that education is a noble profession. While we do make salaries, while that is important, it is actually a much more profound profession. It's a privilege to be able to do this for in the society, because the impact it creates is lifelong. And it is very important that just as Finland has overhauled their education system, has become the best because they really value the teachers. That's the culture that should come into our country. But until that happens, at least each one of us can do what we can. And in my capacity as a principal, I want to make sure that each student in the school, or even the parent, are not focused on what is the cost of education, but what is the long-lasting impact of education on their child, on their families. Because you're not just educating the child, you're educating the entire family. Everybody who's attached to the child is in it with you. So it's a huge responsibility. And in that sense, it's a service, definitely.
That's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So, so we see a lot of parent and community involvement, and I think you had mentioned that earlier as well. I think that needs to be seen a lot more, I think, from an overall perspective, because end of the day, every parent wants his child to be successful in life. So if I'm looking at a very broad, an art stream, for them, what is my child going to do? But hey, look, there are so many opportunities of good earning opportunities for your children. Yeah. I think once the schools are able to portray that and show that to the parents, I think that's where the shift could happen. Do you think that's something
that's a brilliant point? That's a brilliant point, and I think you've just summed it up so well. That's absolutely what schools should do. Rather than just repackaging the old information, we have to open up new vistas for our students, for our parents, and that can only happen when the school also looks at the big picture and is also anticipating what is in the future. Yeah. Only if we are looking at that, if we are not just having this blinkered vision of this year's result, next year's result, how many students in NEET, how many students in, if we are not just looking at this number crunching and are able to envision how education will unfold, how careers will change in the future, how the world is evolving, and how our children can help change the future. Once we start seeing things like this, we can definitely create a culture where students will see art and culture, I think, is the future, because while everything else can be managed by machines, it is the human intelligence, it's the emotional intelligence, which is going to be the big, the big differentiator.
Yeah, totally. I totally understand. And I think I personally feel that schools should play an important role now and encourage this a lot more in their own system. And I think only then the change will happen. It's very difficult to break the thought of a parent. They come under a lot of pressure from different factors, but some of the schools could play a good role in that. A question, creating happiness. We know that, schools can create happiness and joy for students. We feel that. Is your school able to do it? And do you think it's important for every school to look at this as a perspective?
Yes, so Pushpendra, I feel that happiness is not created or is not a consequence of anything. Happiness is within us. And there are so many $1 billion of research which is done on how to make people happy and how we can be happy. But rather than doing that, I think if each person focuses, so I encourage my teams to meditate, I encourage children to meditate, we talk about meditation, we look at how we can, this is a rich, very rich art of our culture, of our country, that is being completely appropriated by the West, and all kinds of different meditations are coming. Whereas, the simple meditation where you just spend 5 minutes after getting up in the morning, you're just looking into yourself, you're looking at how I can change in any given situation, how I can do the right thing. So you are not pointing fingers at anybody else. So I think the change begins with myself, with how I can change. When I change, that change has a ripple effect on everybody else, and the children change, the parents change, the teachers change. So I think as the leader of the organization, I work upon myself very, very seriously. For the last 6 years, I've been practicing Raj Yoga meditation. And I think in every situation, I reflect, how could I have done something differently? If I were to do this again, I revisit the situation, make sure that I'm never the cause of any, I should be the person who should be able to resolve the conflict, not initiate any conflict or misuse power in any which way. And that is what I want our teachers to understand, that when a student is with you, it is somebody's whole world. It's a family's whole world. That's not just one student. And that can only happen when you ignite that human element within yourself, and you don't see your profession as just another thing that you have to finish or earn money from. That's why I really feel, going back to your question, that happiness can be created if we choose to be happy. If each one of us are happy, we create a happy environment around ourselves, and everything. Children are naturally happy. We make them unhappy.
I think every teacher needs to have a happy bubble of their own, and that's why it kind of expands to other bubbles, right?
Yeah.
I remember my time. We used to like a subject more because the teacher was very good and was keeping us happy and getting us involved in that.
Yeah.
We started hating a subject not because we didn't like it, but because the teacher wasn't that diligent in teaching us, or wasn't making it interesting for us. So
she was happy because she's enjoying her work. So her happiness will then, trickle on to the students. Yeah.
Correct. And I think that's also there, the little bubbles that we can create of ourselves.
Yeah.
Look, I want to touch base on another important point, and we know largely our society has been there. There are a lot of Bollywood movies made on this, choosing the wrong career after, and I didn't want to be an engineer, I want to be a photographer, blah, blah, blah. And I know that the schools play a very important role in it. Somehow, consciously, subconsciously, we don't agree to it. We're not able to manage it. But do you have systems in place where you're able to kind of understand students, help them in a better career planning, choose the right stream so that they have a positive outcome?
Yes. So in terms of systems, we definitely, like I mentioned, we start doing step-up programs. Step-up programs is essentially helping any grade level to move to the next level through their peers. So peer coaching is one methodology we use. Second is we have career counseling happening from grade 8 onwards, not happening at 11th and 12th, but grade 8 onwards, because parents and students start meeting the career counselor, start understanding what are the options available out there. Because if at that level we start opening the world to the children, they think differently. So that's one thing we've consciously done. It's really worked in our favor because children gain a lot of confidence. Also, one very good outcome of this approach is that they start working on their profile from that age onwards. They start thinking, oh, I have to get associated with a bigger cause. So they're thinking about how to make sure that whether the old age home next to their house can be taken care of for the next 5 years. It becomes their 5-year project rather than something that they do at the end. And it becomes far more meaningful and deep because the connection is, very real. It's not about university application when they are in a rush mode, but actually they are understanding it. And that age also is, such that if the teenagers' energies are aligned and channeled towards the right causes that early on, they are very likely to be very productive members of societies and not cause any harm. And so this is the second thing we do. We have this career guidance happening that early on. Then we also do psychometric tests through the career counselor to help the child understand their preferences or whatever their inclinations are. And then the other thing is that alumni connect. So we have children being able to connect with their seniors who have taken certain streams. How are they feeling? For example, there might be some students who's jumped, and we had that example, who was in New Zealand, went for computer science but shifted to something else in the third year of engineering. Why?
Wow, okay.
So they can share their experience with the students that I did this, I got through, but I couldn't enjoy. So they can learn from this experience that such things happen. So these are 3/4 very conscious strategies we apply.
And this is done through use of technology, or you have third-party people
We
coming
do have,
in?
yeah, it's a combination. So we are using a platform called Cialfo to do this application process. So it makes it very, very simple. It's all in one place. The profile building happens from there on. We were using another platform. I'm not sure whether I should be naming the platforms, but yes, we were using another platform before this. Now we've just shifted to a new platform. Yeah.
Great. And so you had mentioned about psychometric testing, and we've heard a lot about that. But I personally feel it. It's all algorithm based. So how true can a psychometric test system be to really understand me as a student and say, look, that's your outcome? Somehow I'm against it, not in the bad way, but what is your thought on that?
Right. You're quite right. They're not foolproof, and they definitely have, certain things which will just fall through the gaps. But sometimes they do help. So we use something called GL-CAT4 assessments. GL-CAT4 assessments start from grade 2 for us, and that's another way we identify strengths of the students in different subjects. So for example, we often have students who think they're not good at math, but the test will show that they're very good at intuitive math, but this is the area they are having problem in. That kind of minute data reading we have. And then psychometric tests are definitely helpful for students whose energies are very scattered. They don't know, because there is a group of students who are all over the place. So it just helps bring things together, and then from there they can select and choose. It's not a prescriptive thing. It's very diagnostic. So
I think it should not be taken as a true sense that is exactly what I need to do. I think you still need to engage with experts, counselors, and maybe mentors from industry to understand what your line, your path should be.
Yes.
And that's where we feel it is. Great. Look, my last question to you would be to ask, what would your statement be, or how would you inspire the current youths? What would you say to them in the current scenario and for the future plan?
My statement would be in Hindi. Swa parivartan se vishwa parivartan. Change yourself to change the world.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So if you want, before trying to be a global citizen, before trying to do something very revolutionary, ask yourself, are you doing what you're doing is right? Look into yourself, work upon yourself, and then try to do the bigger things, because then those things will happen very effortlessly. It's only when we are so preoccupied by what's happening outside that we shut our inside, and we're only looking at outside frantically and just chasing things, when somewhere half the down the road we figure out, oh, this is not what I want to do, and frustration sets in and depression sets in. So I really, keeping the well-being, emotional well-being in the mind. In the present generation, they're very, very lucky. They have everything. Most of them, that is coming from certain lifestyle groups, they have everything, but they are missing this element of self-knowledge. So they really need to first understand themselves, check and change themselves, and then change the world.
That's beautifully put. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks for all the insights. And I'm sure when the students and parents listen to what you've said today, they'll have a different perspective, and I think they'll open up to a lot more new avenues then.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure, and such beautiful questions. Even I didn't know that these insights existed inside me. You brought them out. So thank you very much.
Pleasure's all ours. Thanks. Good to have you.
Thank you.